Today, we'll talk about block masteries, such as order blocks and the breaker blocks. How to choose the right blocks, which order blocks to use, which breaker blocks to use. We'll talk about everything stop loss hunts, liquidity pools, smart money concepts. At the end, we will look at how to detect fake setup and how to avoid bad trades. We have so much to cover. If you're ready, let's start. Welcome our free trading course. We only talk about price action trading strategies and smart money concepts. With this video, you'll learn how to become winner trader from a losing trader. If you are looking for a structured table of contents, I set it up for you. You can find it on Google Drive or directly from my website, which is in the description. It is important to watch videos in order to fully understand everything. Let's talk about a couple of my recent trades that are really educational. I'm rocking a 100% win rate this week, great times to trade. I'll mostly talk about New York opening scalping. When I was looking at the Bitcoin in 30 minutes, I noticed these nice equal highs at the top. At the same time, I also noticed these lovely internal equal lows below. Okay, as a day trader and scalper, I'm mostly concerned with the latest price action. Of course, I'm aware of monthly, weekly, and daily timeframes. However, most of my trades are focused on the final price action that is closest to the current price. So, I was actually waiting to long the market right here. Price almost hunted the liquidity and tapped the imbalance, but it never happened. At this time, I started to question the price. Why? So my entry idea suddenly became the target for me, an amazingly clear target. Let's get back to the New York opening. Right now, I found my target and I have my bias set. Remember, targets are for determining the bias. The question is now, where can I short the Bitcoin? With further analysis, you can notice this internal equal highs, which is combined with another internal imbalance. Guys, these structures are not here by luck. This is all designed system. It was also colliding with the Asia session high. Remember, I do not trade sessions. I actually do not even care about sessions. But sessions could be a great extra confluence to liquidity and imbalance strategy. Beside all that, the London session high still was clear with a nice downtrend liquidity. Notice what happens here after the New York Open. Price sweeps the equal highs, sweeps the session highs, makes a swing failure pattern with quick rejection. Now I'm going down to the 1 minute. So we did 30 minutes, 5 minutes, and now 1 minute. As you can see, the structure shifts right here with this giant full breaker block. The moment I saw the BPR right here, I was already thrilled that I was going to get a sniper trade. Once you see the same setup 1,000 of times, it's like you are seeing the future. Once the price hit the BPR, which also collided with the EQ area, I just watched the reaction for a bit and took the trade. Normally, I use cushioned stop loss. I also suggested to everyone, but I trusted this setup so much, it was an extremely high probability setup for me. Besides that, as you can see, there are no deep imbalances for the price to pull back to. So I saw no reason for the deeper pullback. One great trade. It is a masterclass level entry. Let's check out the second trade recap. This is an even more educational trade actually. Notice this insane liquidity sweep with the swing failure pattern. And notice this insane liquidity pull up top. This was another crazy moment for me because I traded this setup like 1,000 times already. If you closely look at it, you'll notice this was a clear power of 3. Remember, I do not trade PO3. I only trade structure, liquidity, and the imbalance. But PO3 shape, this pattern allows me to see the possible future. Now switch to the 5-minute New York opening. Once I confirmed the market structure shift, right after the big liquidity sweep, I was aware of the possibility. But guess what? Another internal equal highs up top. Even better for me. Much more confidence and extremely clear target and extremely clear bias for me. Bitcoin wants to go up, period. No discussion allowed here. Here, check this out. Another small PO3 right here happening. Do you understand how I use PO3? It is a repetitive pattern that will allow you to see the possible future. What else did we have here? Asia and London sessions. And guess what? The session high points actually constructed the equal highs. Do you think this happened mistakenly or randomly? Of course not. Okay, I had 3 possible powerful order blocks here where the price could start the big rally. All I needed was to observe the reactions. Guys, market and price give you all the signals that you can ever need. You just need practice and repetition. Now switch to the 1 minute. Again, I followed the same pattern of 30 minutes, 5 minutes, and 1 minute. However, the best time frames are the time frames that you find the clearest structures. So you have to go through all the time frames until you find the clear structures. It is not about 30 minutes or 5 minutes or 17 minutes or 61 minutes. It is all about clearest structures. I actually observed the first order block area. The price actually reacted really well here, made a long consolidation. But it was not powerful enough to shift the structure. When the price came to right around the second order block, it shifted the internal structure right here. It quickly shifted and created the imbalance. And this pullback was your extreme sniper entry which started the entire rally. Yes, this little tiny red 1 minute candlestick started the mega rally. I actually missed that entry with a couple of candlesticks, but I just jumped to the rally without any hesitation. Again, I can call this another great sniper trade for myself, like the first one. Look at this picture. Everything is so clear and simple in a way if you practice a lot. Let's talk about the fake detection, which many of you probably caught in the fake setups. Check this out. Look at this great market structure shift and BPR. Not just that, it also makes another smaller market structure shift and BPR at the entry point. And all this happens in the premium zone. Such a great trade setup. Why would even this fail? Let's zoom out and see what we have. This is the setup that we just set, the short setup. Remember the previous trade that I just longed to hunt the equal highs and the session highs at the top. You are trying to short an extremely bullish bias here. You must understand this very well. You cannot just enter a trade if you see a great high quality market structure break and with a balanced price range. You must have an extremely clear target or a bias. You have to trade to the right side of the movement. I hope this clears the way to avoid fake setups. Okay folks, this is it. This is how you fix your mistakes and move on. These are great trading strategies for scalpers and day traders. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you, please take care and see you soon.